owned by smaller companies, or in many cases, just mom and pop operations, right? Now this has become a publicly traded investment banker's game, with many of the resorts that are making most of the amount of revenues. And what they are seeing is they're losing market size and stealing market share. All right, that means there is not the same amount of people. Vail last year reported that they made more money off of less customers. All right, they're much smarter at looking at how all their operations are profitable or not profitable, and knowing when to increase and lower the price of things in order to bring in greater revenue. And all of the organizations are doing that better. Right? So what they're doing is they have to appeal. This is the 1% story. Okay, they're going after the people who have more money, who will buy things regardless if the price goes up 10%. And there isn't an incentive to go after families that are making less than $125,000 a year. And this was told to me even by the vice president of marketing at Oakley. Our customer that we try to attract are people who are making over $125,000 a year.
Do you think anything is going to change?
Well, the thing that changes is pain for businesses. You know, if they're not making enough money, they're going to have to go after and do that. Now, the biggest thing that changes the ski industry is lack of snow. Mm-hmm. You know, and we saw that happen a couple of years ago with 2 back-to-back warm winters that really had a significant effect on manufacturers.
This is much of this is public land. I told you I spoke to the Forest Service this morning, to your friend. Should they have any role in this, in ensuring that, they said that their role is, once the lease is signed, to ensure public health and safety, which is basically make sure there aren't any avalanches.
Well, what's the question?
The question
should
is,
the Forest Service politically state that there has to be more work by the ski resorts in order to get more people out to the ski resort?
Right. I mean, the fact is, if it's public land, we all pay our taxes, and if most people
I'm smiling because
can't afford
if you've ever worked with
that.
the Forest Service, it's the Forest Service is glacial. They move slowly. All right, they're not going to work on something like this. I've sat in numerous meetings with people very high up within the Forest Service. You have a Democratic governor, you have a Democratic president, you have people who have kids who run ski resorts. This is a problem that we're seeing across the country. You can run as far as Vail and Aspen, and you can have your Lear jets, and you could have your second, third, and fourth homes and be insulated. When I started SOS 22 years ago, it was because I couldn't believe that there were guard gates at the entrances of national forest systems in order to go ski and snowboard. That's gotten worse. People are making less money, working more single parents, and less people who are citizens of the United States are getting into the outdoors. The sad part of it is, with other people's money, the ski industry could be bringing more people into the sport. There's corporate socialism. This is another form of it that we could be using in order to try to help people.
Mm-hmm. And when you say guard gates, you mean literally?
Literally, guard gates. Mm-hmm. In order to go into Beaver Creek, you have to go through a guard gate. There's no other way around it. And that's a national forest. When I was a county commissioner, I voted down land use proposals that had guard gates to it. I mean, people have incrementally given up on seeing how the super rich are taking more from them in order to create their own fiefdoms. When 20 people in the United States own 50% of the wealth, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we're shooting this in the Aspen Valley, and I've lived in the Vail Valley. I live in La La Land. And for 25 years I've been studying how the bubble just sort of gets recreated and insulates people more and more.
Can you argue that there's a corporate socialism aspect to the fact that these national forests are now being used for leases
Right.
that then charge a price that doesn't represent the actual cost of taking people up the hill?
I think there are so many variables, and that's why, as a person who ran a charity for 20 years and had to make it grow every year and make revenues exceed expenses and have that money come from foundations that weren't going to give money because it was getting more kids up chairlifts, it has to be a valued proposition followed by a business deal. And the business deal is, are you down with other people's money? If you use other people's money through nonprofit programming, long term, not just for recreation, everybody wins. And you do it for a measurable amount, 100,000 kids or 100,000 people. Where the resistance has been when I've presented this to the powers that be political or business, is they see it as being, just a lower end sector of society. Even nonprofit people say that. Well, folks, I don't know how many problems you've tried to solve in your life, but this is a simple one. And if people want to do that in their lifetime and do something for the next generation, I would look pretty simple. Because they're giving, all these resources are already out there. They just have to be pointed to the same direction.
Mm-hmm. Then my last question would be, since you actually live up here, it's such a segregated population socioeconomically
Right.
in the mountains. What do you know about, say, the service workers' kids who live here?
Right.
How many of them? I know I've heard various programs where they get to ski for a week, once a year.
Right.
If you live up here, a week is nothing. So
Right.
just tell me a little bit about,
51% of the Eagle County school system, which has 7,000 kids in it, is minority. It's almost
I'm going to start because I think I was talking, so
Yeah.
start with that 51%.
Okay.
Okay.
As an example, 51% of the Eagle County school system, which is 7,000 kids, is minority. People don't realize that these are the people whose the minority population is the one that are cleaning the bathrooms, turning down the pillows at night, putting the little mint on it in order for people to have a good time while they're on vacation. All right. They don't think about whether or not their kid is going skiing and snowboarding. They're thinking about whether or not their kids are going to have a better life than what they did in Mexico or other places. They're wondering, how can I teach my children how to assimilate into an American culture? And one way of doing it is providing after-school activities. So you try to give them enough type of activities, and what you're trying to do is seeing, does that help their grades? Does that help their self-esteem? Does that make them want to stay in school longer, graduate high school, and go on to college? And that's what we were focused on in SOS, is will they graduate and go on to college because they'll be better citizens?
This I don't have to use if you don't want me to, but in terms of you've moved on to other things now from SOS Outreach, was it because you felt that your mission could not move ahead given the pressure of the industry, or was it that you decided to move on? And again, I can turn off the camera.
Vail Resorts asked my board of directors if I would resign from SOS or step down from SOS because I was, in September of 2014, doing a lot of social justice. SOS was developing their social justice section of our curriculum, and I was in Washington and New York and protesting on issues that I've talked about, like global warming, like an endless war, like the division between the rich and poor.
And they saw that as obviously a clash with their corporate
It's
values.
very difficult for an executive director to operate when they start to do things that are very political.
Mm-hmm.
And yet at the same time, it's very important inside of an organization as great as SOS, which is promoting social justice, because it starts with we're going to teach you how to ski and snowboard. Then we're going to teach you value-based leadership. And then we're going to show how you could give back to your society and right a wrong or fight injustice. Because all of these kids are leaders already at a young age that of what injustice looks like to them. The kids who live in Vail and the kids who live in Aspen who are from affluent backgrounds, they haven't seen injustice on the same level of a kid who's living in an inner city or a first generation kid who's seen not only segregation, but a lot of different bad things happen to them and their families.
Terrific. Did you want to add anything? I know
You
you
know-
could go on forever, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, I'll say it as simple as I possibly can. I felt it was important for me to give back because I had so much. I benefited more than others did. It's the same premise for corporations and it's the same premise for other people in society. All you have to do is try to work on some business operations, strategies, and tactics, and in the end you end up helping other people. The resources are either going to go to other things like endless wars, or they're going to come back and help our society build a better society. You could bring that to a micro level. And I hope that the people who are listening, I hope one or two people in there appeal to the fact that not only is it good for business, but it's good for other people.
terrific.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
You pointed out that many of the most successful ski and snowboard industry companies are publicly traded. Could there be an issue with long-term planning given the way that publicly traded companies are compensated and managements are compensated, in that they're looking for quarterly profits and their ability to see that the shrinking base is going to happen in 5 or 10 years doesn't affect their compensation as much as juicing revenues and earnings in the short term?
And just answer to me as if I ask
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, can you ask, I think I understand the question, but I mean, what it boils down to is corporations.
Can you have that long-term vision if you're a publicly traded
Traded
company?
company, yeah.
And that's what I was going to say, is that corporations do not think 5 years out. They think first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth. And the other thing that's happening in the United States is that the compensation packages are based mostly on bonuses. So you have this weird setup, incestuous setup of how, corporate leaders' packages are incentivizing them. And a lot of times, and I haven't researched this enough with the ski industry, they're doing stock buybacks. And the stock, it's not even a product that they're working on in order to increase market share, or stock prices. And so the incentives to go out there and look, this isn't that complicated. If you're running an organization and you're making enough profit, you're thinking to yourself, I'm in a community and I've got to care about how the people who work for my business and the reputation I have in my community feels that I'm doing a good job. So what do? You go out there and you give a little bit to everybody and you spread it around to everyone. This is the holidays. This is sort of the Potterville story all grown up with a better PR department. All right. There was an organization, the North Face, gave out $250,000 every year, maybe still does. I sat down with them numerous times and say, you give $2,000 to, sometimes 50 to 1, but mostly you give a little bit to everybody. Why would you want to consolidate your efforts in order to help more people come into the sport and stay in the sport? Smart people. They said they like the program that they're doing right now. Well, that translates to, we want to make sure that everybody knows who our brand is. So they're looking at it as a short term. They're looking at it as a marketing or PR effort. They're not I've sat down with CEOs and said, why wouldn't you use your marketing dollars towards helping people, because it's going to be part of your PR? Why are you giving money to pros? You know, most of their money are going to cover pros jumping off of cliffs and buying ads. Because people see those people as the people who are then going to buy their product. But what are they selling? A warmer, drier, and lighter jacket than the year before, with harmonizing their zippers to the color of the jacket. All right? I mean, this is just shifting the paradigm, and only a few companies have been able to figure out a way to do it, and Patagonia is the leader.
And doing good work.
Well, Patagonia realized a long time ago that they were just getting into being a marketing company. They've actually advertised, don't buy this jacket. You know, they have gone out of their way. And the big thing is they're not a publicly held company.
Right.
But they've continued to grow exponentially by doing the right thing.
REI as well,
Right.
not publicly traded.
Well, REI is not a publicly traded company, but I know their corporate giving policy very, very well. And I've argued with their people. You know, look, here's one thing I'll say as an example that really bugs me, all right? GoPro gets all this prop for setting up a bunch of money. I forget how much it was that the CEO, who's now a billionaire, is setting up to trying to do philanthropic work. I know for a fact, up until at least this summer, they haven't released any of those dollars that they've put aside for a year or two. I've done everything legally and ethically to try to get those dollars in order to help more kids. And all you see, GoPro and Red Bull is the other example, is using young people, using the sports, and not giving anything back. Kids who are athletes for them don't have health insurance. They wreck themselves, sometimes permanently, and they're not even giving compensation packages to their athletes. Why the heck do you think they're going to help out everyone? And they think, and they're treated like the most coolest group in the sport.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah,